The Pygmalion Effect, Why What You Think the Outcome Will Be Matters and How Quantum Physics May Explain How It Works, by Andrew Anderson. So you think you're going to do well with your next marketing campaign or dealing with a loved one or colleague? Wondering if you're going to lose weight on that new diet perhaps? Or maybe even thinking if you can do well trying intermittent fasting and keto. This is good because of the Pygmalion Effect. We know that it impacts the outcome of your campaign, the outcome of the interaction you will have with that person, and the outcome of your health goals, and the outcome of the date or the interaction with a loved one, believe it or not. And now, quantum physics may be the key as to why if we think we're going to succeed at something, we do, or if we do not think we will, we don't. And how we think may matter far, far, far more than we ever thought. There is one other connection as well. Have you ever heard of the phrase, birds of a feather flock together? Under this new theory in quantum physics, this is all tied together. There have been some recent experiments in quantum physics that prove this theory to a scary degree. The experiments prove that intention does indeed have a measurable effect on the outcome of quantum reactions. More on the specifics of this later. Every once in a while, a light bulb goes on for me when thoughts come together that have been brewing for some time. I happened to be going through some of the piles of books that I have and came across The Powers of Positive Thinking in Business by Scott W. Ventralla. I had read and own a first-run copy of Norman Vincent Peale's classic, The Power of Positive Thinking. Good book indeed, and it runs along with As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. I had casually read through it before and had not tripped my trigger. Although I'd lent it out to several people, and one person in particular gave it credit for changing the course of her career and leading her to go back to school for her master's degree. Still, I had not revisited it. But as I opened it up this time, I came across a section that I think sums up one of the keys to business success and success in most areas of our lives. It's called the Pygmalion Effect. You see, in Greek mythology, there was a sculptor who sculpted a beautiful woman. He poured his heart, soul, and all kinds of skill into the sculpture. He named her Galatea. It was so perfect that he fell in love with it and he wished it were a real woman. The goddess Venus saw this and actually made Galatea into a real live woman. Thus arose the Pygmalion Effect, where you get what you wish or expect. Spring forward several thousand years and we end up with one Dr. Rosenthal of Harvard. He did a now famous experiment where he went to a school and pulled the names of 3 teachers out of a hat at random. He also pulled the names of some students at random. He then told the teachers that they were the 3 best teachers in the school and that they were going to be getting the best students to see how well they could do with them. At the end of the year, on average, the students' performance was 20% to 30% higher than the rest of the school. This experiment was conducted over 300 times with similar results. In essence, when the teachers thought of themselves as stars and that their students were gifted, the teachers treated themselves and their students as gifted. Both the students and teachers performed up to these expectations. For me, this was mind-blowing that such a simple thing could increase results dramatically. But then again, it does seem to fit in the realm of common sense and from what I observed over 5 decades of working with people. In fact, once in one of my early sales jobs, I had a sales manager named Robert who demanded that when he asked how you were doing, that you always replied with something positive such as, "I am great" or "I am doing fantastic." At first, I secretly thought he was a nut job, as I saw him fire and take out Jim, our second best salesman, right on the spot one morning when he said he was having a crappy morning, and he started to go off on a tirade about Robert and his dumb be positive policy. Robert told him calmly to shut up and take it outside. I thought, whoa. Well, Jim got about 4 more non-positive words out and never made it outside because Robert had a wicked right hook and dropped him like a rock and calmly said he would not tolerate negativity at all. Guess what? He meant it. No wishy-washy mamby-pamby HR policy here. He would not tolerate any negative talk at all among his salespeople, and he meant it. No whining or complaining, no grumbling or moaning. If you had a complaint or issue, you had to frame it in a positive fashion. He knew how important it was to do this. The proof was in the pudding, as it were, in that our sales group outsold all others by not just 10% or 20%, by a whopping 1,500%. The Pygmalion Effect in quantum physics may have struck again here. No one else was even close to our sales group. It made me appreciate and respect the whole policy. Perhaps this is why I have such a low tolerance for negative and whiny people. I know how truly destructive this seemingly innocuous and poisonous behavior can be to all people around that person. The only exception to the rule is if I think the person is worth redeeming. However, even then, I keep them at a distance unless they change. Otherwise, I let them wallow in their own self-produced misery or their so-called life. Stay away from me, thank you very much. Now back to the teachers and the phenomenal results that were produced. What was funny, or perhaps not, is that rather than being embraced and implemented on a wide scale in schools across the country, this caused a flurry of criticism within the teaching community as they claimed the results to be irrelevant. Really? At first, this may seem like a contradiction, but once you finally figure out that schools are not there to teach people how to think, they are there to teach them how to obey, their lack of adoption makes sense. I'm not kidding or making this up. As Ayn Rand said, contradictions do not exist. Whenever you think you are facing a contradiction, check your premises. You will find one of them is wrong. They felt that the children should feel good about themselves and not be compared to others, and there must have been something else going on. So rather than being implemented on a large scale, they did not adopt it. Professor J. Sterling Livingston also did experiments with managers and their subordinates in business, and as you may have guessed, he got the same results. Those results were published in the Harvard Business Review. Even Peter Drucker seems to weigh in on the subject as well. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Peter F. Drucker. All you have to do is look and you'll see this with a great many of the successful entrepreneurs and companies out there. Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Warren Buffett, Richard Branson, Myron Golden, and Ashley Qualls all have one thing in common. They expect success from themselves and those around them. Now, how can you implement this in your business and life? Make sure that everyone buys into what you're doing. Do not tolerate negativity about what you're doing from anyone, even if they are just joking. Talk to the person and tell them that you do not want to hear it, nor can they talk to anyone involved that way. If they don't get it, get rid of them right then and there because they are literally poison. Seriously, your business may depend on it. While this may seem harsh, the subconscious mind is a funny thing. It picks up on the smallest things and tends to expand them. Good, bad, it goes to town in the human brain. One negative person in an organization may be costing you thousands and thousands of dollars or more. Plan for success by making sure that you think through what is going to happen once you get there. But perhaps more importantly, there is a lesson in this for all of us. Now, do you have to be sickeningly sweet and politically correct all the time? No, in fact, being politically correct all the time can also have negative impact on profits as well. But of course, just use common sense. Don't allow people to share being in a bad mood or making negative and non-productive opinions. Make them couch their speech in a positive fashion. It can take months to break bad habits, but you will notice that not only are people more productive, they feel better about themselves. Expectations also play a large role in our own performance as well. You need to start expecting success in your business and in the rest of your life. Your outlook plays a large role in your conscious and subconscious actions, whether you realize it or not. This is an important reason to avoid negative people like the plague, especially when you are in startup mode. Actually, you should avoid them all of the time. They're being crap magnets. Henry Ford summed it up very well with this quote, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." Let's pull in some recent developments of 3 things in quantum physics that may actually go further to explain the why and the how this can be happening scientifically. If you know anything about quantum physics, it is that truth is stranger than fiction. Quantum physics, 3 theories that explain the Pygmalion Effect. Here's an excerpt from another article I did on biophotons for a blog about keto and intermittent fasting, and it looks like it directly relates to the Pygmalion Effect. Biophotons are something that you have probably never heard of before, but because of them, it appears that what and how you think really can have a huge impact on the rest of your body. Thoughts can actually be communicated with the rest of your body without the use of nerves. This has the apparent ability to have a cascade impact on all of our systems, from hormone release to tension and even immune response. If you have followed my development of describing sixth gear and getting into it through intermittent fasting and ketosis, which is basically going into high gear and staying there all day without the normal ebbs and flows of energy and getting tired after lunch, the biophotons can originate in your brain cells, and our brains work so much better with ketones. This could be part of the process as well. Apparently, the human brain is able to produce over 1 billion biophotons per second. Add to this quantum entanglement, which is where two atoms become linked like Siamese twins, no matter how far they are separated, and they become mirrors of each other in that when you do something to one, the other one reacts at the very same instant, even if they are thousands of miles away. Because of this, they are now being used in computing for instant communication with computers without the internet. Wonderful, crazy times if you enjoy physics like me. If both of these are not strange enough, add to this the new OOR theory, and it could give even more credence to a host of things. This could also explain the 100th monkey effect. This is a widely observed phenomenon going back hundreds of years, whereby after a group of monkeys or herd animals learned about a new food source or how to deal with a new danger, once the 100th monkey or herd animal learned about it, it spreads to others like wildfire, even though there are no direct contact between the groups across as much as hundreds of miles. The 100th monkey effect is a hypothetical phenomenon in which a new behavior or idea is said to spread rapidly by unexplained means from one group to all related groups, once a critical number of members of one group exhibit the new behavior or acknowledge the new idea. This has baffled observers for centuries, but biophotons and quantum entanglement seem to explain it quite easily. This may also help explain how some people that turn around a positive mindset are able to heal themselves, and how chronic stress can lead to a host of ailments. It also gives new credence to birds of a feather flock together, and why you should be very careful who you hang around with. The negativity could well be catching for sure. Add to this the theory of quantum entanglement, and these two together go a long way to explain even more unexplained observations, including when a mother instantly knows that something is wrong with one of her children, even though they are separated by a great distance. Now we're going to dive into the truly bizarre. This is from Wikipedia. The Penrose Hameroff theory of orchestrated objective reduction identifies discrete conscious moments within quantum computations and microtubules inside brain neurons, e.g. 40S in concert with gamma synchrony EEG. Microtubules organize neuronal interiors and regulate synapses. In ORC, microtubule quantum computations occur in integration phases in dendrites and cell bodies of integrate and fire brain neurons connected and synchronized by gap junctions, allowing entanglements of microtubules among many neurons. Quantum computations in entangled microtubules terminate by Penrose objective reduction, or a proposal for quantum state reduction and conscious moments linked to fundamental space-time geometry. Once I read this, I immediately thought of this explaining the Pygmalion Effect too. In fact, it gives sound scientific basis for it and wraps it up in a nice bowl. What they're saying is basically that our brains have the ability to become quantumly entangled with other thoughts, and there's nothing in quantum physics that says this cannot happen. If we go back and look at quantum entanglement and biophotons, it makes complete sense, and it wraps everything up, like I said before, in a nice bow. At least it did for me. You can still be the judge of it. Let's dive in some more. Now we're going to dive into how I believe OR, what my acronym for it is instead of the silly one that they now used, may explain a whole lot of what we just talked about. Indeed, the history of scientific discovery is littered with ideas that were initially dismissed only to be adapted later. This includes gravity, heliocentrism, where the Earth revolves around the sun and not the other way, the existence of atoms, and even quantum mechanics. Albert Einstein, whose groundbreaking theories redefined our understanding of the universe, faced skepticism and criticism in his early career. It is in fact this open-mindedness that makes the pursuit of science so exhilarating. To say that science has a final word is to misrepresent its very nature. Scientific understanding is not absolute. It evolves, shaped by new discoveries and reinterpretations of existing knowledge. The orchestrated objective reduction theory, despite facing significant skepticism, is one such provocative idea that dares to venture into the gray areas where neuroscience meets quantum mechanics. It is easy to dismiss such idea as too radical or too far-fetched, but science thrives on challenging the status quo, right? Looking at the history of science through this lens, we can find several parallels. Gravity. Before Isaac Newton, gravity was not understood or recognized. It was Newton who gave us this universal law of gravitation, explaining something as mundane as an apple falling from a tree and as cosmic as the motion of planets. What was once unexplained became a foundational concept in physics. Heliocentrism. The Earth was once considered the center of the universe. It was a radical shift in perspective when Copernicus proposed that Earth, in fact, revolves around the sun. Despite facing resistance, heliocentrism turned our understanding of the cosmos on its head. Atoms. The idea that everything is composed of tiny invisible atoms was a theory long before it could be proven. For centuries, the atomic theory was philosophical, not scientific. It was not until the 19th and 20th centuries that it moved from philosophy to hard science. Quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics, with its paradoxes and oddities, seemed to defy common sense. Even Einstein was uncomfortable with its implications, famously saying, "God does not play dice with the universe." However, subsequent experiments confirm quantum mechanics predictions, no matter how strange they seemed. And we just talked about several of them. Similarly, while OR may face resistance and skepticism, this does not rule out its potential significance in our understanding of consciousness. Many theories have been criticized or rejected before eventually being accepted, sometimes centuries later. If proven, OR could revolutionize our understanding of the mind, cognition, and even the nature of reality itself. Such revolutionary ideas always meet resistance because they challenge the existing frameworks of understanding, and people do not like change. But they also open the door to new perspectives and possibilities. If OR, or a theory like it, eventually gains empirical support, it could be as profound as a shift as us realizing that the Earth revolves around the sun, or accepting that the universe operates according to strange laws of quantum mechanics. Ultimately, progress in science depends on bold thinkers who dare think differently, to question the established norms, and to brave the skepticism and dismissal of their ideas. In this context, theories like OR, despite the current mainstream skepticism, could even be seen as potential catalysts for breakthroughs in our understanding of the still mysterious phenomenon of the consciousness. Under the assumption that OR and the 100th monkey effect are factual, we can weave an intricate tapestry of interconnectivity and consciousness that challenges conventional understanding and opens up an entirely new vista of thought. OR, developed by Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff, postulates that consciousness is not a simple byproduct of complex computation, but rather arises from quantum vibrations within microtubules in the brain. These structures are considered the quantum processors of the brain, performing operations that might connect our minds to the very fabric of the universe itself, OR and shared consciousness. Embracing this new theory wholeheartedly, we can conceptualize that our individual consciousness are all interconnected at the quantum level. As such, quantum entanglement and superposition, well-established concepts in the realm of quantum physics, could be a basis for shared experience or shared learning. If entangled, the information in our brains could influence and be influenced by other entangled brains. We're going back to birds of a feather again. The 100th monkey effect explained. I remember the first time I read this as previously mentioned in high school, or maybe I did mention it. Not only does this happen with monkeys, but many other species such as kangaroos and sheep. The first example of this that I remember was an account of kangaroos in Australia where they started putting up barbed wire fences. The kangaroos became increasingly entangled with them. However, After a few short weeks after the first ones were installed, the barbed wire fences that is, the kangaroos were for the most part able to avoid them without pause. This became true even hundreds of miles away when the other fences were installed. But as this could not be explained under normal circumstances, many of the so-called experts and scientists, rather than investigate, wrote it off as nonsense. I guess that is what small minds do, right? So, the 100th monkey effect proposes that once a critical number of individuals within a species learn a behavior, it seemingly instantaneously spreads to other members of the species, even those geographically separated. This, under the umbrella of the OR theory, could be interpreted as evidence of shared species-wide consciousness. And if we throw in biophotons, who knows? When the 100th monkey learns a new behavior, this knowledge becomes part of the collective quantum consciousness of the species. The entangled quantum states of the individuals allowed for the rapid spread of the new behavior, with monkeys that were previously unfamiliar with the behavior suddenly gaining access to this information through their entangled consciousness. Interconnectedness and collective progress. This quantumly entangled shared consciousness might provide a framework for understanding rapid social and cultural shifts, and even interspecies learning. Could suggest a sort of collective cognitive evolution, where progress made by a few can benefit the many through a process of shared consciousness, transcending the limits of space and time. I know this is sounding crazy, but this is all possible under quantum physics. The implications for humankind? Well, applying this to human species, this would mean that our minds, too, are interconnected at a quantum level. Every idea or understanding that we individually develop might not merely be personal growth, but also a contribution to the collective consciousness of humanity. A breakthrough by a scientist, the creative process of an artist, the empathetic understanding of a philosopher, all of these might be contributions to the human collective consciousness. As more of us learn and grow, our shared quantum consciousness could also evolve, sparking rapid societal changes, technological advance, and shifts in moral and ethical standards, for both good and bad. In summary, if OR and the 100th monkey effect are indeed true, our understanding of the universe and our place in it shifts dramatically. It opens up a new realm of possibilities from micro level of our individual consciousness to the macro level of shared global cognition. It suggests a deeply interconnected world where every thought, every learning, and every realization ripples out into the collective consciousness, influencing and being influenced by the greater whole. This concept challenges us to see learning and growth not as isolated personal achievements, but as essential threads in the intricate, ever-evolving tapestry of collective consciousness. This is why it's so important to be careful about who you hang around. They need to be on the same path of growth and positivity. That is not to saying that thinking, I think I'm going to do well in your business is going to take the place of research, educating yourself, and hard work, but your expectation of doing well or mediocre may have a much larger impact on your success than you ever thought. Thinking and expecting you're going to get 8% returns versus 21.5 could be the difference between actually getting either result. It might just be worth thinking about. We live in the reality that we create for ourselves. Why not make yours beautiful? That's one of my favorite quotes that I came up with, and maybe you'll like it too, and this kind of all blends together. I'm going to throw in one more bizarre thing at you that they have just discovered in quantum physics. Scientists show future events decide what happens in the past. In a recent experiment, they have shown that future events can change past events. What this means is what you do in the next few moments can change what happened in your past. Rather than dive into that wonderfully twisted ball of yarn and its repercussions and its associated possibilities, I'm going to save it for another day. Let me leave you with this. Does this mean what we think now can change the past? Have a wonderfully profitable day. I have faith in you. Now we just need to make sure you do as well. It can and will make a huge impact on how happy you are in the future. Happiness is not a destination, but a choice we make daily. Andrew Easy Anderson with IQ Marketers. And below, I'm going to put the links into some of these studies so you can go do your own research. Have a great day.